Hello everybody, you're at home on the tools with James. We're in the Commodore today and we're talking blow-off valves. So today we're in my 1988 VL Turbo Commodore and it needs a little bit of attention. I've not long had the car on the road and I've built the turbo up and we've turned the boost up a bit. And what we've got the car doing now is dosing. So this is essentially air that's heading back out through the turbo when I get off the throttle, and it's coming back out through the impeller in the turbo, making quite a large dose of noise. Now, the car's currently running on 14 pounds of boost, but it's only on a base tune currently, so I've got to do a few Ks before we go and turn the boost up. However, the dose in the car is quite loud. So loud so that I've got to be careful where I drive the car at this point. So we want to cure that. We're going to fix that. I know there's a lot of people out there that really do enjoy the dose sound. Don't get me wrong, puts a smile on my face every time. However, it isn't great for my turbo, and you know, if I keep it going, I'm sure the police probably aren't too fond of the dose either. So we're going to have a look at blow-off valves and how we can fix my dosing problem. Suppose we better check out what a dose looks like. So we're back home now. Let's have a bit of a look at what we're working with here. So what we've got is we've got a VL Turbo motor. We've got the standard manifold sitting on there. So that came with a VL Turbo when they were original. We've got a, well, I'm going to call it the charge pipe here, which is a no holes intercooler type setup. We've got the original low mount manifold, albeit modified with a wastegate, which was what we would call the hot side of the turbo. We're not going to focus on that today. We're going to focus on the cold side and the blow-off valve. Now, you'll find blow-off valves in all turbocharged / supercharged cars. And the reason for this is what we'll explain now. So what we've got going on essentially here is when we get on the throttle, our turbo is sucking air in, and you're spinning the turbine on the impeller wheel in the turbo. And it's basically an air compressor. It's compressing air and it's sending that compressed air into your manifold. And in this case, it goes into the turbo. We're going down, it's a bit hard to see. There is a pipe down here. It's coming in through here, in through my intercooler, back up and out, and through this pipe here, all the way into the throttle body. So the throttle body in there between the manifold. Now, obviously when we come on boost, we put in PSI, we're putting more air in the engine, we're getting more fuel in the engine, we're getting more power, and that's the stuff we like. But what happens when we get off the throttle? Where does that compressed air go? Now, if we don't have one of these valves, that compressed air has got to head back down the way it came, back down this pipe, all the way back through, back out the turbo impeller wheel the wrong way. And what that sound is, the dose noise you're hearing, is the air getting chopped by that impeller wheel coming back out, and it'll ultimately come back out through your air intake here, through the air filter. Now, some people put what they call a screamer pipe on, and this is basically just a pipe that comes straight out of the turbo, and that gives you even louder noise. We're not wanting to do that today. So what happens now is the blow-off valve comes in. So what it does is works between this pipe, our charge pipe that's got the compressed air built up in it, and when we come off the throttle, we want that air to escape quickly, and we actually want it to go back in through the air intake. So we've got the air filter here, and we've got the air intake, and then that heads back into the turbo. So when the air comes out of the blow-off valve, it will actually head back through the turbo the correct way. We won't get that chopping of the turbine noise, but what we will get is we will get a real whoosh of air. All right. So I might have a quick look at the blow-off valve that I've chosen for this car. I'm going to do what we call a plumb back, which is what I've just explained, the plumb back blow-off valve. So this is basically where you're plumbing the air back into the system. There's also one that's vent to atmosphere, which we'll talk through when we have a look at the blow-off valve. So let's take a look. All right, so this is the blow-off valve that I've chosen. We've got our weld-on V-band flange there, a stainless steel one, because we're going to put it on this stainless steel pipe. So we've got that there. We've got our V-band clamp. Always good with these things to have the V-band, nice and easy. And I have chosen today a Turbosmart plumb back 38mm piston type blow-off valve, and it's obviously it's a plumb back. So as I said, we're going to keep this in the system. We're not going to vent to atmosphere. And basically, what we're going to do with this is this blow-off valve is going to be mounted on the side of our charge pipe here. All right. So as I come off the throttle, we've got that build-up of air. It's going to expel out this way, and we're going to divert that back into here. All right. Now this type of blow-off valve is a piston type valve. So if I stick the camera in there, you'll see if I push it up, it's a piston. You can also get diaphragm ones. You can get race port ones, which are for race engines, and up to 60 sort of mil, and they'll vent to atmosphere, and it gives you a very large releasing of compressed air. But this one's a relatively small one, but it'll be fine for this application. Brilliant thing about this, made in Australia. So we love that. The top port here is just a reference point for the manifold, so it's going to run to a manifold line. It's a 1/4 inch vacuum line, so we'll find a vac on the manifold. And interesting to note on this car is standard they ran about 6 psi, and they actually did come out with an overboost valve. But my manifold, and some of the VL purists will love this manifold here actually never come with one. It was cast without a boost over valve. So I thought that was pretty interesting. All right, so what we might do is get to it. So first things first, I'm going to work out exactly where on the charge pipe that I want to mount this. Being stainless steel, I actually haven't got a welder that will do stainless. So I'm actually going to take this to a guy I know, and we're going to get that flange welded on the side here, and then we'll take care of the airbox and where we're going to plumb it back to. So let's go and have a look at that.
So we're going to tackle this side here, and I did say off the top that I want to get the air back into here, but I actually don't want to weld anything on here. I want to save a weld where I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reroute off the blow-off valve. I'm going to reroute into the airbox and then into this unit. You can see I've got a K&N filter in here, and I've got a big long bugger. It's about 9 inches long, and it takes the whole airbox up, so that one won't be any good anymore. But what I'm going to do is use this silicon joiner piece that has got provision for a blow-off valve to come into it. So I'll show you the parts I'm going to use. So here we are. I've got the Aeroflow. It's a 38mm 90-degree bend, so that's going to go from our blow-off valve into the airbox. Then once it goes inside the airbox, I've got this 38mm billet aluminium hose joiner. So one end of that will go into the silicon hose. I've got nice black. I've got the sort of theme of the car is black, so I've got these really nice black clamps to go on it. That'll divert in. Now the other end of this metal plug here, this aluminium plug that goes into there, is going to go into this ProFlow joiner. Now I've got my 3-inch intake there, and you'll see that it's got these nifty little T's, they call them, and the blow-off valve gets straight back in there. So then I just need a short piece of aluminium hose here in 3-inch, and that'll piggyback feed into my new air filter. And I had to go, I got a nice black one, which is pretty cool, but I did have to go the short stubby style one, so this will fit into the airbox. So I'm going to mock all that up so I know exactly where I need to get this weld into this stainless charge pipe, and then I'll get me buddy to weld it up, and then we'll put it all together, and we'll see what happens. All right, so we've got our parts in now. I'll give you a bit of a look at what I've done. So you can see in here I've got the 4-inch filter joined up with a piece of 3-inch aluminium hose, just a small stubby bit, a couple of ring clamps. We've got our T piece there that we showed you earlier to join our blow-off valve into. You can see I've with a hole saw here, 38mm bit in it. I've actually drilled through the airbox, coming out here in our 90-degree silicon hose. You can see there our blow-off valve, and I ended up having to take it to a shop, but I've got a nice neat finish on my flange in the charge pipe, so you can see we're ready to go there with the nice black clamps. We've got the vacuum line in, so I run the vacuum line from the top of the blow-off valve, ran that back through. I actually was out of spots on my manifold to run it to, so I've had to do a bit of a link in off my brake booster hose back in here, so I'm getting good vacuum pressure. And we really do need that vacuum when we get off the throttle. It really helps with the vacuum at the top of the piston, pull the piston up, and the pressure at the bottom of the piston, force it up and let our air come back out and through into our intake system and through the turbo the correct way, cutting down on that turbo chop and giving us a nice whoosh sound. So we'll do a couple of passes and we'll see how we go. I will have to make sure that I dial in the spring tension in the top of the blow-off valve correctly, just to make sure I eliminate any sort of chop, because we just want that nice air sound. And I do that quite easily with the top here. There is a little spot there that says harder. If I turn this to clockwise, it'll actually put more spring tension. And if I roll it back anti-clockwise, it will give me less spring tension. So sort of have to do a bit of an on-road experiment with that to get it in the sweet spot and get it right and get it where it needs to be. So let's go out on the road and get it dialed in. So there you go, we're back home now, and you would have noticed that we've got a good whoosh of air now. We're not getting that turbo chop, which is great news. So blow-off valve install completed. Car's going really, really well. It's actually behaving a lot better. I feel like the fact that the spool in the turbo isn't getting knocked out every time I'm changing gear just gives me it feels like it's on a smoother curve as I'm driving. So really happy with where that is. I'm going to end the video there. If you did find the video helpful and you want to leave us a like, that would be fantastic. I do a lot of DIY stuff on this channel. There is a bit of Commodore stuff in amongst that with this car. But if you want to subscribe and check out my other videos, that would be great also. But you've been home on the tools with James. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.